we're going to go live, do a little podcast. Super excited. I'm Sam Taggart, and I'm with John Israel, also known as Mr. Thank You. Super excited to have him on the show. He has an amazing story, and really looking forward to this. His journey over the last year is he has October 8th of last year committed to writing 5 thank you cards every day for 1 year straight, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. And how many are you at so far?
So currently 1,670.
Wow. And you haven't missed a day, right?
Correct.
What happens if you miss a day?
If I miss a day, I have to pay $1,000 to a charity.
Wow. Can I pick the charity, or do you have it already picked? I mean, you haven't missed a day yet, so you're so close.
If we did, it would definitely be the Front Row Foundation.
Front Row Foundation,
yeah, we're
okay.
pretty close for those guys, so yeah.
Cool. So anyway, so if you're watching this is going to be really interesting because you have 15 years in Cutco, and currently you're on their events team and have some awesome records there. I mean, he's one of the top reps to walk at Cutco. He has the world record for what?
So I do a couple things with Cutco. I'm in our events team, so whenever there's a home and garden show or like a county fair, we'll have a booth there and we'll pitch and promote our products. So I do that. I'm also in our closing gift division, so I work with businesses and real estate agents, and we basically sell them Cutco knives to give away as closing gifts, as thank you gifts to their clients. So I currently have the record for largest closing gift order in the company so far. So
that's awesome. How big was the order, if you don't mind me asking?
So the original one, because they've ordered multiple times now. So let's just say at this point they've ordered close to $70,000 worth of Cutco.
Just one guy.
No, it's a company. So okay. But that's within the last year so far.
That's so nuts. And you get commission on those?
Yeah.
You're just like, I need to keep you happy and I'm set. Like,
yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a good account. We definitely take care of them. They
cool.
get lots of thank you cards, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like thank you cards. So let's dive into kind of your story. How'd you get into Cutco? How'd you get into direct selling? Kind of tell us that journey.
Yeah, so I mean, I started selling Cutco when I was 19 years old. So I was a freshman at Gonzaga University, and I just
go John Stockton, by the way.
Yeah, right. I have a funny John Stockton story. I'll tell you later. But so he comes around campus because he lives in town. But so I was going to college, came home from school one day, and my mom called me, and she told me that my parents couldn't pay for school anymore. So it's a private university, it's very expensive, and so I had to do it myself. So needed to find a job, and I remember coming home like frantically looking for something that paid above minimum wage. So I sought out like being a valet driver, because they got tips and all sorts of stuff. But I had zero work experience. So I had worked at a movie theater for 1 month. So no job experience to speak of. So and the only people that hired me were Cutco. And I got an advertisement, came in. I already had a friend who was working there doing pretty well. So I was offered the job, took it, and did pretty well my first summer. So nothing crazy, made like $5,000. Then came back the second summer, made closer to like $14,000 in the summer, working between semesters, and then just kind of kept getting better and better. So I worked with them all throughout college, paid my way through school with them, and I was considering going to graduate school. And again, that would be on my own, paying for it, so I didn't want to rack up more student loan debt. So I just opted out, and I was already in a good spot, so I just continued on with Cutco, and very happy and grateful for where I'm at now. So
that's cool. So how did you transition into the closing gift business side of Cutco? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, we're always looking for the most profitable models and how we can be successful in our business. And for me, closing gifts was a new thing. There was this guy named Tony Carlston who was just crushing everybody. Like, we had no idea what he was doing. Just some dude out in Washington State who was just crushing everybody. And so he was willing to share a little bit of his knowledge with me, and I just really ran with it. And what we did was just found a model of taking a non-consumable product like Cutco, right? Who if someone buys a $1,000 set of knives, they're not going to buy 10. They're not going to keep keep buying them every year. They might add to their collection or buy for their family, which is a great model. But I was looking to grow that, and I became a closing gift rep, and with closing gifts, they're basically giving the knives away as gifts. Then they run out, and then they got to buy more.
So you get a residual customer.
Yeah. So basically, our idea is we sell them 5 months worth of closing gifts, and then they run out. We give them, we order more I did that for actually several years, and then I went into management for Cutco. So I was leading sales teams, and we had a really successful office in Ventura, California for about 4 years. And then I transitioned out of that in about 2014 when my wife and I were expecting our first child. So we just had some big life transitions. We moved and went back into the closing gift division, and that's basically what I've been doing ever since then.
That's cool. So tell us about the journey into Mr. Thank You. I think this is one of the most inspirational things that I'd ever heard of when I first heard of it. So I'm excited for you to kind of tell us how you got into that and then what it's been like since.
Yeah, it's a real wild journey of how, like, from start to finish, because it wasn't this, that's it, I'm gonna write 5 thank you cards a day. There was this real like a seed that was planted that just kind of kept growing, and because of other ideas and feedback and experiences that I had, they all collectively, like, it took about a week for it to really come to fruition. But in essence, I'm a gift salesman. So what I relate that to is I'm also a gratitude salesman. So I help people express gratitude in memorable ways with people who they care about. And I love that. I love that aspect of what I do because it's helping people say thank you. And so I made this mission after I heard a Simon Sinek video. A lot of people have heard the Start With Why TED Talk he gave. So I listened to that, and he talked about how to have a purpose and how people don't buy what you do, they buy why you're doing it. And so I thought, wow, that's so great. It totally makes sense. I know I'm bought into people when they have a big purpose, and I can tell what they're up to. But can my customers tell that about me? So thought about it, and I came up with this mission about gratitude, and how who I am is I'm committed to elevating the level of gratitude on the planet. And initially I came up with the idea. I was like, that sounds good, feels good.
But everybody's gonna just like say, I'm gonna change the world,
right?
And when people make those statements, you laugh, but it's like, this is crazy because you're starting to measure that, right? Like,
And so what happened was, and I wanted to not limit it to just me selling Cutco product, because that limits to who can buy Cutco product. Like, currently you can only sell it in the United States. It doesn't allow for it to really expand that big, and so I thought, what's something that I can do as an activity that would allow me to be practicing this and to inspire other people. And there's also this really great story that I was at a seminar, and this guy shared about how there was this monk who wanted to change the world, and his whole thing was he went out and he tried to change the world and he couldn't do it. So he said, okay, maybe if I come home and I work on my country, I can change my country, and then from that, we can change the world. And then he realized his country was too big and he couldn't do that, so he went back to his town. And he said, well, if I change my town, then my town can change my country, and then, so forth. And then realized that was still too big. And then he's like, well, my family lives with me. I can affect them and I can change them. And then he still found, as most of us find, that you can't change people, right? They have to decide they want to change. So then he realized, towards the end of his life, that all he really had control over to change and affect was himself. And if he had affected himself and changed himself, he would be able to change his family. And from then he would be able to change his town and his country and ultimately the world. So I love that story. It inspires me. And I thought, well, how does that work in real time? Like, how does that work for me now, John Israel, business owner with a life and a family to support? So I wanted to find an activity that would allow me to consistently, habitually bring gratitude into my life. So instead of me just saying, I'm committed to elevating the level of gratitude on the planet, how do I embody that personally? Because it's easy to say something that you're like a company. We're committed to offering the best service. We're committed to bringing the greatest products to the market. But it's like, how do you as a person embody your mission so that it's not just an idea, but it's like it's a real
like an
thing.
Identity. Live that.
It's a tangible thing that becomes your identity. So I wanted to find a habit that would make that possible, to embody gratitude. Because if you ask 100 people who know John Israel, what do you know about John Israel? I don't think that they might say some great stuff, but I don't think they would use the word gratitude. I don't think they would say he's a grateful guy. So knowing that wasn't the case, but I'm saying I'm this dude with this big mission to change the world and affect the level of gratitude, I need to embody that. So I thought of, like, what's an activity? Thank you cards. It's really simple. I've since I was a kid, thank you cards have been important in my family. My mom, when I was, get Christmas presents or birthday presents, she would want me to write thank you cards.
The story of how many thank you cards did Santa Claus get?
Right.
If I rang true,
Yeah, I definitely probably only sent out half of the ones she was hoping I sent out. But and this is actually which is important, is that to me, and I think to most people, gratitude and saying thank you and writing thank you notes is more of a chore and an obligation than it is an opportunity to really express how you feel about somebody. So, and I think that's natural when you're young, right? So now I'm older, and how do I express gratitude? So thank you cards are still something that I find value in, and I use them in my business. I give them to really great clients that I have a great experience with them. And so I thought, hey, that's something that it's tangible. I can measure, and I could do it every day. And I've had several experiences of where thank you cards were very, very powerful and impactful in my life.
And we need to clarify. These aren't hey, thanks for the wedding gift. See you later. Like, these are, like, I've received 2 thank you notes from you, by the way. So I feel like super honored. But these are full on, like, letters, like each one. So like, explain that a little bit. Like, what does that mean?
Great question, because I didn't want them to just be how most people perceive a thank you card, which is just like, hey, thank you so much for the wedding gift or the Christmas present. It was very well received by my wife and I. We're going to enjoy using those coasters, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wanted it to be looking like it would require me to pause and think about the person and ask myself, what do I love about this person? What do I see in them that's unique, that's special, that maybe they don't notice, but I see? Like, and then just acknowledging it, writing it all out. And what's kind of interesting, when I've been doing a lot of research on this idea of gratitude and how do people express gratitude, and another term that people use is appreciation, right? One way of expressing gratitude is to express appreciation for somebody. And the actual word appreciate, the root word is appraise or appraisal. And when you look it up, the Latin roots basically mean to understand the full value. It's like when someone's going to buy a home, they get an appraisal to understand the full value of the home. Yeah. What's great, what's not great, what's beautiful about this home, what maybe needs some work. But they don't say, like, here's all the stuff that's wrong. They say, this is what your home is worth.
Yeah.
So they can come with full value, and they tell you what it is. So to appreciate someone is to take the time to think about them and give a value of who they are to you, and to write that down and acknowledge it and share that with them. It just has proved to be a very powerful experience. Number one, like taking the time.
Yeah, I mean, how much time a day does it take on average for 5 of those?
Yeah, because they're an average of about like a page each. So like typically it's like if it's a thank you card, I'll fill in the whole front and then the whole back or just some of the back. That's about average. So it takes about an hour and a half every single day.
That's crazy. So tell us about some of the experiences. I mean, you've done over 1,000 of these things. So right. I'm sure you've had some really cool experiences or some of your favorite thank you notes that you've written and had.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
So one thing I can preface, because some people have, with this mission, it's very interesting. It's kind of odd for some people. It's odd for me too. It's kind of a crazy thing to do. And it's inspired people to do different types of missions to their own right. And I say that because when you start something like this, like when I began it, I didn't know what was going to happen. So when I committed, I'm going to write 5 thank you cards a day, every day for a year. I figured like some cool stuff's going to happen, but I didn't have any perception of what it could be. It's kind of like if you were with your buddies and you're like, we're going to go on a 2-month road trip across the United States. Yeah, with no maps.
It's gonna be dope.
But the only thing was there was no maps. You couldn't use any maps.
Yeah.
You'd be like, all right, that's crazy. Probably gonna have some awesome stories, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I felt what was gonna happen. So I didn't know what was gonna happen, what I was gonna say to any specific people, but I knew I was just gonna live with an open heart of gratitude and express it openly. Even if I was uncomfortable, I would still write whatever I felt.
Yeah, I'm sure sometimes it's awkward to be like, here you go, and then they're like, what is this?
Yeah, it's
I mean, thinking of 5 people is probably hard enough every day. You're like, wow, who should I write one to today?
Yeah. So it was interesting. So and that, constantly looking for new people to appreciate. So the stories that really stuck out for me were on day 3, and it was actually all 5 cards that I wrote, and it was kind of a legendary day for me of the whole experience. But I was flying from California to Philadelphia for a dad's retreat. So I'm a dad. This is a group of entrepreneurial fathers who are going to talk about how to become better fathers for our families while we run our businesses. So very important event to go to for me. So I was flying out for this event, and I realized as I was getting on my plane, you know, I've never taken the time to really appreciate the pilots of my planes. Before every takeoff, I always take a moment, close my eyes, and I pray for safe travel. And to this day, I've had 100% safe landings and safe flights. But we hardly ever see the pilots, right? All the TSA regulations are locked away. We don't even see them when they come on the plane or when they're leaving hardly. So, but it's a big freaking deal. They put us in this cylinder and shoot us into the sky, and we're up there for an hour or a couple hours, and then we land and we're fine. And then we go, you know, and while we're on the plane, we have drinks and we you know, enjoy ourselves or read a book. It's an amazing experience. So I just took the time to think about, like, wow, okay, I don't get to thank these guys ever. I'm going to thank the pilots of my planes. So I get on the plane. I ask the flight attendant, hey, what are the names of the pilots? She looks at me super weird. Why do you need the pilot's names?
Are you a terrorist? Like,
I know. So the first time I do this, I'm super sketched. I'm like, okay, this could be great, or could be I could never fly again. Maybe this is a weird thing. So I decided. So I got the names, and I take a seat, and I just write what came to me, and I had to think about, okay, I don't know these people. Like, these are complete strangers. But what do I know that might be true about them that I could acknowledge and appreciate? And I thought, well, you know what? I fly a lot, and I'm always gone from my family when I do that. That's what these guys do for a living. I mean, they probably miss their families a lot. Yeah. So I wrote that in there. I said, hey, you know, I just want to appreciate who you are and what you do, because, you know, you probably miss your family a lot, because I know I do, and you probably have the same experience. So I appreciate you doing that so I can get where I need to go. I also thought, you know, it's probably a dream for a lot of these guys or gals or whoever the pilots are, that they get to do this. Like, it's not like you don't become a pilot by accident. It's not like it's not like you were good at something, so they just promoted you into management. Suddenly, you know, you're a manager. It's like you decided this intentionally. You went through training. I mean, and it's a scary thing, at least to me. Maybe it's not to them. But I was like, wow, this is intentional for you. You wanted this. So I said, hey, and I know this was a big dream for you someday to do it, so I just want to really acknowledge you for all the time and effort you put into all the hours it took to fly and all the training just to do what you're doing. So I just wrote all this stuff, and I give it out to 4 pilots, because I had 2 flights, 2 pilots each flight. And then when I land, and I go on with my day. I don't know what's happening. I get off the plane, and I hand the flight attendant, I say, these are for the pilots. And they're like, oh, okay. And then she gives them out to them. And now these particular cards had, they were my business stationery, so they had my name and my email. Yeah. And this is what blew my mind, Sam, is that when I landed, basically within 24 hours of landing in Philadelphia, 3 out of the 4 pilots emailed me to thank me for the cards they got. Which was kind of mind-blowing that, you know, it mattered enough for them, for them to acknowledge it.
To do that. Yeah.
And then, but the big thing that was so wild was one guy replied and he said, you know, John, in my 12 years of flying, I have never received a thank you card from a passenger. And to me, I was like, that is ridiculous. Yeah. What you do matters so much and has such value. No one has taken the time to appreciate you for it. So I really saw, especially the fact that 3 out of the 4 emailed me back. I was like, wow. So I saw, like, wow, this is a need. Like, this is something out there that it's like a hunger people aren't asking to be filled up by, but they still get filled up by it if we choose to do it. So I just saw, like, wow, what an honor and a privilege it is to bring purpose to people. Yeah. Because I get to give them, you know, but when you acknowledge someone for what they do, you're essentially giving them purpose. You're letting them know, I see what you're doing, and it's good, and it's valued. Thank you. Most people don't get that sense of purpose in what they do. Yeah. So it was a real eye opener for me to see their feedback. That was huge. Later that day, we go to the event. All the dads are together. We do this whole, you know, entrepreneurial hangout, talk about what we do and our families and everything. And at the end of that, we go to a dinner, unplanned. They were just like, oh, you guys go have fun. And we're like, well, hey, let's keep the conversation going. So we decide we're going to go to a bar. So we pull up to this random bar, And we walk in, and it is like dead. There's like maybe 3 to 5 people at the bar.
And you and a bunch of dads.
And it's like 40 dudes, all excited, right? We're all entrepreneurs. We're all personal growth oriented. We're like really fully self-expressed. And these guys, and you could see the waitress was just like, oh my God. Like, you could tell she was like probably going to clock out early and go home. And we were just like, nope, you're going to be here for a while. So, but you know what? She totally served us amazingly. She did a great job. She got all of our drink orders correct, got all of our food to us. And she had a good attitude while she did it. And I just realized that she totally didn't have to. Like, we could have totally been a miserable thing for her that night. But she served us very graciously. So I got her name, and I said, she's number 5. So I wrote her a thank you card, and essentially I just acknowledged her for, and I told her, hey, we're a group of entrepreneurial fathers. And we are out to, learn how to become better dads. And this evening was really important for us to fellowship and have conversation with each other, and so we can know how to support each other best. And you served us amazingly. We know you didn't expect us. We didn't have a reservation. But you did a phenomenal job. I just want to say thank you on behalf of everybody who was here. So I wrote this note, and we're closing them down. At this point, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and she's cashing everything out, and everyone's leaving, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this to her. So I walk up to her, and I say, here you go. It's always a slight vulnerable experience.
Yeah,
it's like asking a girl on a date. It's like, here you go. But I'm not asking him, saying, we're going on a date. Here you go. Here's your thank you card. You have to take it. So she takes it. She's like, oh, okay. And doesn't know what it is. I don't say anything. And I'm leaving, and then I realize I got to go to the bathroom. So I kind of do a little U-turn, go around the other side of the bar, go to the restroom.
It's almost like I know avoid her.
Yeah, no, totally. Really.
Yeah.
I was trying to not be, make it awkward. So, and then I'm leaving. So I walk out of the bathroom, and she's standing there just waiting for me to come out. And she's got her head kind of cocked to the side. And then she runs at me and opens her arms and gives me the hugest bear hug, and like lifts me up and says, that is the best tip I've ever been given.
Wow. That's amazing. And you would never know because nobody thinks to give a thank you card.
Well, and to understand, like, she's probably gotten $100 tips. She's probably gotten 40% tips. She's probably had a lot of tips. To have someone say that your words of affirmation meant more to them than anything else like that they've ever received was mind-boggling. To understand, number one, they don't receive that. Number two, the value that it has for people to be acknowledged and noticed and appreciated. So that was day 3.
Yeah, I'm sure you've had like hundreds of other crazy.
Yeah, I mean lots of. But I mean that one really stuck out, and why it was important was because for me it was this. It really anchored like you've got to do this. Like this is a need in the world. This is an undisclosed want that will change people's lives if you continue doing this. And this wasn't just for me to do something. This was to be in alignment with the mission to elevate the level of gratitude on the planet, because I wanted to do something that not only would affect me but would inspire others to do something similar. And I've had multiple people who've reached out and said, hey, after seeing you speak or hearing about your journey, I've started writing one thank you card a day.
Yeah, I started to do it and then I phased out, but I did put in probably 30 or so thank you cards, which was 30 more awesome than I was doing before.
Absolutely. And you know what? And I think that's, I don't want to inspire people to feel like you have to do 5 a day, because 5 a day is super freaking hard.
I'm sure.
Like, I got to dig in deep.
You probably realized, like, shortly, you're like, why'd I commit to 5? Like, should have done 3, maybe.
Yeah, 5 a day has definitely been a challenge, but also what's great about it, because I committed to it, and, if I don't do it, I got to pay $1,000 to a charity, is because I wanted it to be something that would be challenging, that would also, I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew it would call forth creativity. It would call forth, like, figure it out, find some people to appreciate. So, I mean, and that's something, I would probably encourage, like, anyone who's watching or listening to do, is to take the time and start with a list. Like, that was the easy beginning part. Start with a list of
all the people I know that I wanted to say thank you to.
All the people I know that I want to appreciate, that I want to say thank you, that I want to acknowledge. And that's a good start. I mean, that alone can be like 100, 150 people. Even if it's just 50 or 40 or 30, those cards are going to mean so much to those people for them to hear how you really feel about the value they've brought to your life. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's just a couple of stories of, like, right off the bat that were hugely impactful on me, and obviously impactful on others too.
That's crazy. Okay, we're going to shift gears. So those that are watching live, we're going to now correlate this to why, hold on, this only stays for 30 minutes. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to tie this all into direct selling.
Right.
And those that are listening to this, and why it's important, because you still do gift giving at Cutco and events, and I'm sure the thank you cards have correlated a ton into selling, and I'm sure you've seen a ton of referrals and, or whatever, right? So let's touch on 1, personal sales, 2, your team and leadership, 3, just the effect of gratitude it can have on your selling career and like how it helps your attitude and things like that. So from personal selling, many of us, like I'm in solar, for example, and we have cancels out the wazoo because you'll sell somebody and they'll get installed 2 months later and they got 2 months to sit on it. So
right.
like I think it would be effective there, or getting referrals. I'm assuming a lot of yours is relationship-based business because you're doing this gift giving. So where do you find gratitude effective in your direct selling?
Yeah, it's a great question because ultimately when I share this idea with business people, they're like, "Wow, that's cool. It's very inspiring. What's the ROI?"
Yeah, like
right?
what's
the return on investment? Number 1, you're spending a lot of time, and 2, you spend a lot of money. Think about it, times 49 cents per card, for a stamp, right? Plus buying the card. There's a hard cost, right? Like whatever, $1,000 to $3,000, something like that. Have I gotten that money back? 100%. Thinking of a really simple example, I'll give you a couple examples of how I actually apply them directly in my business.
Yeah.
And also how I've applied them indirectly in my business, but that turned around like full circle to become another sale. So number 1, it was always part of my process to write thank you cards to clients. And speaking frankly, I outsourced it. I hired a girl, and
really?
every time I processed a sale, I would say, "Hey, here he goes. Go ahead and send a thank you card out to everybody. Here's a format of what to say to every person." So they basically all got the same card. So with me taking on this project, I'm going to have, anywhere between 300 to 500 sales throughout the year. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll make that a priority. I'll make that's something that I do now. So probably about 1/3 of the cards that I give out are to clients or prospective clients or people in leadership who have influence that, I want to tap into. So I started writing them to all of the clients that I closed a sale with for the year. The wild thing, now I can't tell you that I've had 0 cancellations because that's not true. But what I can say is I've had 0 cancellations after someone received a card.
Wow.
So meaning like, let's say that I work a home and garden show and I have 20 sales, and I write those thank you cards over the next few days, and I'll ship them out Wednesday and they'll start getting them by Friday or maybe early the next week. If it's like within that week, I would have like maybe a cancellation, maybe. But the interesting thing is, once it got past that week when they received the card, I've had 0 cancellations.
That's insane.
Now, I can't say like that's going to be the case for everybody, but what I can tell you, and this is an interesting thing
But
about...
I mean, revenue-wise, you can equate that to thousands and thousands of dollars of revenue and commissions.
Sure, because what I used to have, everyone knows their metrics, right? So like based on how many sales you have, what percentage of them cancel. No company's perfect. Every product's going to have returns. You take the best product in the world, someone's going to send it back. So what was interesting was I used to average $1,000 in canceled sales for every 10,000 that I would sell. So that it was roughly about 10% would cancel. Now I sold hundreds of thousands of dollars in product.
Yeah.
So that equates to tens of thousands of dollars in commissions that get canceled, which is just, you accept it as a business owner.
But we do that all the time. It's like I've done door-to-door for years, and it's just like, and some reps, the first year reps are always like, "Oh, how to cancel?" I'm like, that's just part of your job.
Yeah,
like,
just do more
deals.
do more deals. Yeah, you're gonna have them, and they're gonna disappear because it's part of the metrics. So it was just kind of a fascinating thing to know that was my average, and then implementing this strategy. It's basically gone down to, I would say, maybe 1,000 canceled for every like 40,000 in sales.
Wow. And that's just because you can't get a thank you card in time.
And that's
you're like, man, Amazon Prime figured out 2 days. It's like
yeah, it's funny because it is a timing thing. And what I would say here, what's interesting about it, if I was to say, well, why do I think that's happening? And I would say I think that happens because we're bringing the human element to selling. Because when people start to, like, what goes into someone questioning their sale? You know, well, is this person trustworthy? Is this the best product? Is this the best price? They have all these considerations that go through. But bottom line, it's funny when you ask people why they buy anything, it's often because of the relationship, because of the connection with the person or the trust with the brand. And especially if we're, bringing something to someone's attention they've never heard of, they've never seen, this is the first time they saw a demonstration, they might be like excited in the moment, but then as soon as you leave, they're like, wait a minute, I don't know this brand.
I'm not excited anymore.
Yeah, I don't know this brand. Wait, what did I just spend? I don't know.
Let me research it. Oh, bad review.
Right.
Yeah.
And the point is that they make the connection with you, and then you disappear for whatever length of time, because that's just we're not physically going to be with everyone all the time. Are we still recording?
Yeah, it says it's automatically stopped. Keep going.
All right, cool. So we're getting the audio here?
Yeah, we're getting the audio. And that.
I'm
just not that.
Oh, we're getting the Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So
like this if you're still alive on live. I know it's late for most people. We're in California, San Francisco, by the way.
Yeah.
Sweet. Keep jamming.
Cool. Excellent. So you're bringing the human element to selling. So what's great about that is people are now connecting with you more than they are with whatever you do. They're buying you, not your product. And it was so interesting, and I had a good illustration of this. I spoke at a meeting one time, and there was a real estate agent who was a client of mine. And after I spoke, he got up and he said, hey guys, I know a lot of you guys, some of you guys are familiar with Cutco John. Everyone calls him Cutco John. Some of you guys aren't. All I can tell you, I've had a chance to meet him over the year, and what I love about John is he's a hustler. He works hard, and he's extremely trustworthy and super reliable. And I would go to say that if John left Cutco and was selling a different product, I would keep buying it because of John.
Wow.
And I was like, oh man, like that was a friggin' powerful testimonial.
That's crazy.
But what happened, what I can say is that I with him specifically, I brought a really human element to our relationship of the transaction. It wasn't just this thing that I, closed him on and then I was gone, move on to the next client. Like I was, but I took the time to make sure that I recognized him and acknowledged him and saw him. So, if someone's going to write thank you cards to their clients after a sale, a couple tips on how to do that is, number one is find something specific about the experience that you really value. About something that you would remember that they can tell this wasn't one of 100 cards you just wrote, but it was specific to that person. Now, you might write 100 cards, but it feels personal.
Yeah, also, like you comment on an attribute or a trait that you really appreciated about that person, or something that they said, or how they interacted with you, I'm sure it takes a lot of thought and concentration. Is there times where you're like, no, take that down because I want to make sure I put that in my thank you note?
Absolutely.
I'm sure you've had like a system.
I have notes in my phone, so I have a thank you note that I'll put their name and I'll just put dog was funny or husband said this thing. But what I try to do, and this is what I think is really a practice, and this is where I would say gratitude in this respect is a muscle that really grows the more you use it. Like the more you practice expressing gratitude and thanks and appreciation, the better you get at it, and you can go deeper. Because it's easy to say, hey, I really enjoyed meeting you and your son, hope he did well at the football game, right? That's very unique to be like, oh, well, they were leaving for a football game. Oh, wow, he remembered that. That's so cool that he remembered we were going to a football game, blah, blah, blah. But it's another thing to say, hey, I really appreciate meeting you. Thank you for your business. I also just want to say I really enjoyed hanging out with you because I can see that to you guys, faith is really important. Like I noticed, how you guys had this and this laid out, or you had a lot of stuff that was saved from your marriage and that was really important to you. That was just really cool to me, and I just wanted to say I value meeting clients like you who have value in marriage as well. Now that's something I would write because I value marriage, I would acknowledge that and notice it. And then it's amazing, man, when I would do things like that, I would get emails from people or text messages. I literally just got one today while we were at the event, and someone said, hey, I just got your card in the mail. Thank you so much for the kind words. I can tell you wrote this with purpose. And it's just like, someone who sees that, why would they ever cancel anything I sold them?
Yeah. And
this deep level of trust shows up that's like, wow, like he really sees me for who I am and what I value and what I care about. And it's like, no, we don't communicate that way. Naturally, even people who know each other really well. So for a stranger to come into their life, it's like you become this human being. And this is something I used to teach salespeople when I was when I would teach sales was, you know, become like the niece or nephew they never had, but they always wish they did.
Ooh, that's good.
That's the person that they wanted their kids to hang out with, that they just could tell was driven, that had goals, that was honest and compassionate and trustworthy. It's like, be that person and just embody that, you know, as you express gratitude to those people. So I've sent a lot of those types of cards out. I get a lot of feedback from people. It's really affected the lower cancellation rate. And, you know, I found a lot of different ways for them to kind of like weave their way into my business, but it's definitely positively impacted it.
So what about leadership? How would you incorporate, I manage, let's say 50 guys or 20 guys. How does a leader show appreciation in an effective way to his downline?
Yeah, that's a great question. So here's just a quote I'll throw out there on leadership. Most leadership is undervalued, overworked, and about to quit. Anyone who's in a leadership capacity should consider that's true.
Yeah.
Because it's likely happening, but also that doesn't mean it has to stay that way.
Yeah.
But if you consider that, it brings value to acknowledging and appreciating and valuing all the freaking hard work that they're doing. So, you know, if I was in leadership, which I am, and I have different people who work for me, and I have staff and assistants and whatnot, taking the time because typically they get acknowledged when something goes wrong, right? Like something was late, or you didn't do this, or you didn't hit your numbers, and you know, yada yada yada. Here's all the problems, and we tend to duplicate what is acknowledged. You know, if we have a problem and people just keep pointing the problem out, it's just the problem is the big thing. Like it's always being noticed. But if the positives are being acknowledged and appreciated, then that's what they start to do. So if you have, you know, some assistant managers or some reps that are out in the field working, just try to put yourself in their shoes at that stage in time in their life with their life experiences, and just think for like a minute about what was today like. And you might be like, man, back then when I was at their stage, I was freaked out. I was terrified. I didn't know if this was going to work. I didn't know what was going to happen. But let's say that, you know, you take that assumption, right? Because we've all been there. And then they have like a breakthrough day. And maybe they only had one sale. And you have a conversation with them and they're like, oh yeah, I only had one sale, but man, I, you know, had this many appointments or saw this many prospects. And then an acknowledgement, because you can take that one of two ways. Be like, man, you're not working hard enough. You don't have your scripts down, blah, blah, blah. I would be like, dude, freaking kudos to you for having a day with 10 appointments and you got one freaking sale. Like that, like emotionally that probably was really hard, but like, dude, good for you for doing that, because here's what's going to happen later on when you have my roll Sunday. You're going to remember this day, and you're also going to remember tomorrow when you go out there and you crush it and you have 5 sales and you make $1,000. Like, you're going to remember that. So this day is pivotal for you. So I just want to say, dude, keep getting after it, keep doing what you're doing, because you're going to have a huge day right around the corner.
Yeah, I love the quote, what you appreciate appreciates.
Yeah.
And I think leadership, like a lot of us forget, because we're so stressed out on, like, you know, hitting our metrics and the bad, you know what I mean? And like, we just forget to be like, thank you for even those little moments where it wasn't even a crazy good day, but you turned it into a good day for them and a positive, and you appreciated the good and the work ethic or whatever you can, instead of, reprimanding the bad.
And by the way, this doesn't need to be a thank you card. Like, clearly that's just a conversation. That's a little quicker than taking 10 minutes to write a freaking card. You know, that can be done in a 15-second conversation, but it's taking the time to do it. You know, what validated this for me was when I had a conversation with my dad, and he used to work for AT&T. So he would climb telephone poles, and he would, you know, fix phone systems, and he traveled a lot, and he worked on naval bases, army bases, and so he was in Guatemala, and he was working on an army base, like installing some stuff. And they were really under the gun. Like, something was going on, and they had to get this whole system set up for like this whole base camp. and my dad and his buddy were like in charge of it. And they just gave him a super tight deadline, and they finished it. And when they did that, my dad got a letter from the sergeant who was like in charge of that platoon or whatever, and it was like this really just well thought out, articulated thank you note that he signed, and it was just, you know, basically appreciating him for what he did and how it meant to their country and the safety and security they're trying to bring to this location, how the telecommunications were so important, and how they gave them a ridiculous deadline, but they completed it on time, and how much he appreciated him. And my dad starts to tell me the story, and he's freaking crying like a grown man crying. And my dad doesn't cry. Like it was. But what I saw was like, wow, this really moved him to be acknowledged for good work.
Yeah, and the loyalty and culture that creates, because in this job, like, I mean, you never did the door-to-door side, but I'm sure you manage a lot of reps, and you'd see guys come and go, and the loyalty, I feel like, and just that respect that you gain from being the guy that goes vulnerable to give the gratitude and to give the card, and to, I think is to be something said for, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and there's actually a really good distinction around gratitude as as an idea and as a topic, which is, you know, because people say, well, what is gratitude? And there's a guy named Dr. Emons from UC Davis, and his description and definition is gratitude is an experience you have when you receive a gift. Really simple description. But it doesn't mean a physical gift like thank you for the present, but looking at what someone does and finding the gift in it.
Wow,
because what happens is, to receive a card like that is a gift for somebody, because they're receiving this thing because it wasn't expected. You didn't have to do it, but you did it anyways. That's what makes it a gift to them.
Yeah.
So it's received so it's not just you expressing gratitude. It is, but it's also them experiencing gratitude. And there's like really two. That's what I would say is a big thing I've learned, is that with the topic of gratitude, it's part of it. How do you express it, but also receiving it, and the emotional experience of, like, you know, because seriously, now that I've done this thing, I get a lot of thank you cards. It's kind of a cool thing. Like what you give, you get back, and it still feels so freaking good to get this unexpected note in the mail and someone acknowledging and appreciating something that I did, and it's like, there's value here.
So let's and this is kind of leads me into the last thing that I wanted to really talk about, which was how, you know, in sales or leadership or, you know, entrepreneurship, it's easy to have kind of this roller coaster of emotions. You know, we call slumps, and we have peaks, and we have this hard job, right? That's why a lot of people don't do it. But how does gratitude incorporate into our personal development and maybe a daily ritual, or how does it affect kind of eliminating this whole peaks and valleys, and like how would you incorporate that into personal or self-development from oneself?
Yeah. So bringing where I've gotten the most growth in this entire experience throughout the year comes from a kind of a big question, or also a challenge inside of the, you know, writing 5 thank you cards a day as a thing is like, it's challenging physically. Like, I got to write them, right? But the bigger challenge inside of that is to explore my capacity to experience and express gratitude. So what that looks like is, when do I not want to be grateful? And then how can I bring gratitude to the situation or experience? So I can give you a couple of examples. So one was, this was kind of a tough one, because it was one of my really favorite clients, and we had done a transaction for her. It's like her 4th or 5th order, and it got a little screwed up. Part our fault, part her fault. And clearly she didn't want to hear that it was her fault at all, and so she decided to cancel her order, and she also just doesn't even want to talk to me anymore. And I consider this person a friend. So it was just really, I value relationships, so it was really uncomfortable to just be cut off from somebody. So what happened was, part of this challenge was, you know, I went through my database of all my clients that I closed big sales with, and I have what's called a gold group, which I think everybody should have. Like, who are your top 50 or top 100 clients that have the most potential to buy more? Maybe they have second houses, or they have lots of referrals they can give you. So it's good to know those people. So I was like, I have that list, and I was like, I'm going to thank every one of these people. So it's like 100, 150 people long. And I start writing my thank you cards, and I get down to this person's name because she's still on my gold list, even though she hasn't bought in over a year. And the last time we did a deal, she got pissed and canceled her order. So if I sent her a thank you card, it would be inauthentic. Number one, I didn't appreciate that relationship in the moment because I was still pissed that she did that. Two, she wouldn't receive a thank you card and just
almost sarcastically, like it.
Yeah, like ignoring. That we like. Hey, thanks for all your business. Except for the fact we haven't got it in the year.
Yeah, it's almost like
right.
This.
So what I felt there was it wouldn't be appropriate to say thank you, but it would be appropriate to acknowledge and appreciate this person for who she is. So what I did was I wrote a note, something to the respect of, hey Tracy, I wanted to reach out to acknowledge something. About a year ago, you placed an order with us and we dropped the ball. We didn't fulfill our promise. We didn't get it to you on time, and you canceled. And I felt really bad because you're such a great client. I value our relationship. And I think just you're a good human being, so it really broke my heart to see that we couldn't fulfill. So I'm not asking you to do business with us again. I just wanted to acknowledge what we had done and apologize because I really value who you are as a person. So whether we do business ever again or not, I just want to let you know that I love you, I care about you, and I hope you have a great year and a successful year this year.
Wow.
So I sent her that note. Again, no idea what's going to happen. So a couple things I would say there is, number one, after writing the note, like that experience, the power it had over me and the emotion that I would be upset when I would just think about it, it just like disappeared.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's processing.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's processing the emotion, and it was really powerful. So here was the crazy part. So I send that note out, and I don't know what's going to happen. She gets it, reads it, but then she sends me a private message on Facebook and says, "Hey John, I got your note. Don't worry about it. Water under the bridge. I still love you. I still love your family. Hope everything's well." We just went to, this little woman wouldn't return a freaking phone call to, she's reaching out to just, say, hey, water under the bridge. We're all good. And then she reaches out again a couple days later. She's like, oh, I got a question about my Cutco, blah, blah, blah. How do I get this thing fixed? And it's like suddenly it's not like back to where it was, but it's whatever was the problem, that's disappeared. So the opportunity to do business again is there, which I'm not actively pursuing yet. I want to build a little bit more trust before I ask for the order again. But it's like this like, thorn in my side is just like gone.
Well, it's like, and we sometimes don't even realize how many thorns we have. I mean, even like the little tips you get in with your wife or your kid, and you're like annoyed with this. And it's like, wait a minute, let's process this. Let's show appreciation for the gift and find the gift.
Right. And
that helps us not hold on to so much of this junk that we live with. I mean, that's powerful.
Well, and what's interesting is with humanity, when we're in relationships, there's two sides. There's our side and there's their side, and we don't always know what's going on with people. Like if something happens, like if someone cancels an order, like who knows what happened. And there was an experience I had early in my Cutco career when I did a Cutco presentation for a woman, very nice lady. We had a great time, and she bought a decent amount of Cutco, about $1,000 worth of Cutco, and then within 3 days, I got a notification from Cutco that she had canceled her order, and it kind of blew my mind. I was like, "What? Like, why would she cancel?" So I reached out to her, and she just said she wouldn't tell me anything. She's like, "John, just some things happen, and I just got to cancel right now." And I was like, "All right, got it. No worries." I still just valued that relationship so much, and I really enjoyed my time with her. I actually still wrote her a thank you card. And all I said was, hey, Julie, I know that you had to cancel your order for whatever reason. That's not for me to know. But all I want to tell you is that I just really enjoyed hanging out with you. I enjoyed getting to meet you. I loved hearing your stories about your family. And I really hope things work out well with your son. And if at any time down the line you're considering getting Cutco again, I'd love to help you out if that day comes.
Yeah.
Either way, God bless. Have a great year. I sent that out. Didn't hear from her. Just nothing. And this, by the way, this experience, this story is before I was doing the year of thank you. This is like my first or second year of selling Cutco.
Wow.
This is like 14 years ago. This is where I saw some power in the value of expressing gratitude. A year and a half later, I get a call from this woman, and she says, "Hey, John, this is Julie Brown. I don't know if you remember me." And of course, I remembered her right away. I'm like, "Dude, Julie Brown. Like, I had a great connection. We had a great time. Like, how are you?" And then she was like, yeah, hey, I wanted to place an order for some Cutco, so like I would like to do that with you. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we're on the phone. She has her Cutco catalog, and she just starts like racking things up, just like boom, 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 and she orders like double what she was gonna order the first time. And then I was like, wow, like Julie, this is great. I'm happy to help you with this. And then before the call was over, she said, hey John, I just wanted to let you know the reason I canceled my order because I had just found out I was diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
And I was going to have to leave work for a length of time. I didn't know how long. So I was in a big state of uncertainty, and I just had to cancel everything that was going on in my life. And your note really showed that you cared about me more than making a sale. And so I wanted to definitely come back to you when I was ready to order Cutco because I really did want it. So I'm happy to get it right now.
Wow. Wow.
And it was just this,
it makes you think twice about cancel sometimes because you're just like, hey, we're here to serve 100%.
Yeah.
That's our job.
It was mind-blowing because I just saw, wow, like I wasn't trying to get anything. Like, cool, I thought maybe she might get something down the line, but like what I saw there was she's a human being. She did something for a reason. We had a great connection. I don't see why that happened, but you know, I just want to tell her I just enjoyed hanging out with her. You know, keep the line there in case something happens that she wants to order, get down the line. And I was just genuinely, I enjoyed my time with her.
Wow.
And it's easy for us to get egoic and to think like, oh, well, like this and this and this, and her husband probably naked her out, and this happened. But it's like, you don't know. Assume the best in people. And that's probably a good way to start with this, is assume people are acting with the best interests, with their best interest and your best interest and everyone's best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Start with that, because even if you're wrong, you're at least in a good emotional state. You went through it, and sometimes you're right, and it plays out really well in your favor.
Yeah. This is really cool. We got to wrap up just due to time. And anybody on live right now, hopefully this has been helpful for you guys, and anybody that watches this after, maybe tag John Israel and say thank you for teaching us about appreciation. Also, one thing that you guys can do is go to mrthankyou.com, and if this has inspired you to write a new thank you note or write a bunch of them, it sure did when I first heard the story. What do they do?
Yeah, so our mission is to elevate the level of gratitude on the planet by 1%. So that's there's 7.4 billion people. So we want to inspire 74 million thank you cards written across the planet. So we put some metrics to it so we can actually measure it and hit that goal. So what that looks like is if you are inspired by this, you like the idea, go to the page, and then if you write some thank you cards, you can go there and put in, it'll actually tell you how many thank you cards we've written so far, and basically it's me. So I
put a couple in there.
You did, yes, you did. So it's mine, and there's probably like 10 more people who put some cards in. But you put your name and how many cards you've given out in your email, and it's great because that way we can track everything, see how many cards have been sent out. Cool. And we're going to really develop that website. That's going to be our platform where everyone's going to be able to come and stay in touch with us. But I'm excited about it, and people are excited about it.
And you're also publishing your book here shortly, right?
Yeah. So it's going to be coming out pretty soon. So you can just kind of search me on Google.
That's awesome.
Mr. Thank You. Yeah, Mr. Thank You. John. Google John Israel Thank You. I'm sure my mom's proud that that's what she finds when she Googles my name versus whatever else could be out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you guys want to get the book, but just so you know, like the book that I'm writing, it's about the experience, the stories. There's countless stories that have occurred, and this book is designed for you to give away, for people to give away as an expression of gratitude. Because
cool.
I want it to be something.
It's like a giftology. It's the science of giving the gift, but it's a gift on appreciation.
Yeah, and it's
cool.
something that as people, because what happens is as people hear about the story, they get connected with the mission. They're like, wow, this is so great. I want to start doing this. And so inherently, it just makes people more grateful because they're expressing more gratitude. Yeah. So I wanted this to be an opportunity for people to have a tool to give to someone as a thank you.
Yeah, because not everybody sells Cutco,
Right, yeah, no, this is for anybody. So they can give this gift to somebody, and they can also, that when they give that gift, it's also going to have a multiplying effect out there in the world that, it's going to connect with more people.
Cool.
So, yeah, I appreciate this interview, man. This has been fun.
Yeah, no, thank you for your time. This is... mind-blowing, this mission, so I'm here with the journey and helping. So okay,
thanks,
love
man.
it. Thanks,
appreciate
dude.
it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye,
on
guys.
live. Glenn Myers, you guys are awesome. Love ya.